Jagaban. Everybody vote for Jagaban.
I'm just looking forward to an Asiwaju presidency because I know with that our story cannot be the same.
Jagaban. Everybody vote for Jagaban. He's the man we want. Everybody vote for Jagaban.
What is important here in my story is the fact that one, neither my father nor my mother nor myself, was born in Lagos. I'm a thoroughbred Ekiti man. Asiwaju knew this, yet he gave me a chance. And like I said, he didn't just give me an opportunity to serve, in government. Even before he got into government, Asiwaju discovered me as a young lawyer, and he did everything possible, to enhance my professional growth. Asiwaju took me to his mother, who then served as the Iyaloja General, of Lagos. And of course, Asiwaju ensured that I was the one in charge of a lot of the court cases. He brought me to Abuja along with him. And when he was inaugurated as a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, he became the chairman of then the largest committee in the Senate, which was the Senate Committee on Banking, Finance, Currency, and Appropriation. Today, there are 4 different committees in the Senate. Then it was just a single committee. Asiwaju was in charge of so many things in the Senate, as it were. And of course, he brought me in as his personal assistant, and I became special assistant. I became his senior legislative aide, and I served, to the best of my ability. Asiwaju is one person who has an extremely large heart, for the people, for the country. And if you want to understand how large Asiwaju's heart is for the country, just see how large his heart has been for Lagos and what God has used him to do in Lagos. To begin with, he has a high capacity, an unrivaled capacity, to identify talents, encourage them, groom them, and deploy them at the appropriate time. On the community, on the society, on the state, and of course on the nation. He has demonstrated a high capacity to be able to tap, from the resources that are bound in every part of Nigeria. And that explains why he will run a cabinet in Lagos State of commissioners drawn from different parts of the country. I was privileged to serve as a commissioner under the leadership of Asiwaju Bola Tinubu when he was governor of Lagos State. I was specifically the commissioner in charge of the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Social Development. Before then, I had served as special advisor, on political and intergovernmental relations, to him. And even before he became governor, I was privileged, to serve as a special assistant to him. And I was the first personal assistant that Asiwaju had as an elected senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I'm talking of way back in 1991, 92, 93. And of course, Asiwaju became like a major funder of NADECO. And that's one of the things that, amuse me when some people say, to themselves, if Asiwaju becomes president of Nigeria, he will steal money, he's corrupt. The truth about it, not known to a lot of people who are criticizing him, is that ever before Asiwaju came into politics, he had attained a height in life. Asiwaju had worked for Fortune 500 companies in the US, and had done a lot of investments in stock, in bond, and other areas of private, entrepreneurship. And then eventually he was seconded to Nigeria by ExxonMobil. And I use the word, consciously, secondment. Actually, he didn't come back to Nigeria to look for a job. He was seconded by, the oil conglomerate to come and work as treasurer of Mobil in Nigeria. And this was what he was doing when, a group of people approached him in the early 90s, 80s and early 90s, to show interest in our politics. And Asiwaju didn't start as a politician. He started also as an investor. And what do I mean by this? Just investing in the political career of people, investing in our collective efforts to bring about a progressive form of governance in this country. He funded a lot of our political organizing and struggles. And this was the situation up until 1991, when it was time to hold the National Assembly elections. And some of us felt we needed someone with a deep pocket who could run for election as the candidate of our party, the Social Democratic Party, in Lagos West Senatorial District. He wasn't supporting us all along. He wasn't supporting our struggle because he wanted to contest election. He was doing that because he believed in our political philosophy, and he also believed that he needed to encourage the younger generation, to participate meaningfully in governance. And he also wanted to encourage the progressive, elements to also participate in governance, in this country. And as he was assisting us in Lagos, so he was assisting people, in other states. And at the end of the day, we had to go to Iyaloja, we had to go to his uncle, Alhaji K.O. Tinubu of blessed memory. We had to go to a number of people who we knew, would have Asiwaju's ears, just to convince them on the need for Asiwaju to accept to come and run for election as a senatorial aspirant of our party, hoping and praying and knowing that he would emerge as the senatorial candidate of the party for Lagos West. And when he eventually agreed to give it a thought, of course, he went back to discuss with his employers at ExxonMobil. His immediate boss at the time was Chief Pius Akinyelure, who was the director of finance, of ExxonMobil in Nigeria, with Asiwaju being the second in command as the national treasurer. And Chief Akinyelure said to him, "Wait a minute, Bola, what are you trying to do? You want to go into politics? You are the national treasurer of ExxonMobil in Nigeria. And I am almost on the verge of retiring as director of finance. And you are the next in line, and obviously the one that will take over from me as the director of finance of ExxonMobil. Do you know what that means? Are you saying you want to leave this job, you want to leave the opportunities and the potentials, for you to go into politics?" And Asiwaju said he had come to that conclusion to go and serve, because as far as he was concerned, it wasn't just about the balances in his account. It was also about relevance and having an opportunity to serve the people and government of Nigeria. And this was an issue for some time. Most of the white men in ExxonMobil then, as his employers, were really intrigued by this decision. He wanted to resign from ExxonMobil. They would not even let him resign. They negotiated with him to just apply for a leave of absence, hoping that after a year or two in politics, he would not have a choice than to come back to Mobil. So they left the space for him. And the truth about it is, in less than 2 years, the military struck again and terminated, the existing democratic platforms, including the National Assembly. And at a time that his employers at ExxonMobil would have expected that Asiwaju will come back to them, to resume his position as national treasurer of Mobil, Asiwaju decided, to join other progressive leaders to form what they call the National Democratic Coalition, NADECO, in 1993. And late 93, early 1994, following the annulment of the election of MKO Abiola of blessed memory as president-elect of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The rest, will be a story, as to how much Asiwaju did to, ensure that NADECO had a sound footing, how much he did trying to personally fund NADECO, how much he did trying to mobilize funding, and human resources support for NADECO at home and abroad. And when many of us ended up in exile, and then of course I decided while in exile I wanted to do my master's program, and of course Asiwaju encouraged me. He paid for my master's program, and then of course I graduated, with my LLM degree, and I decided again to prepare for the New York bar examination because I wanted to be licensed yet again as a lawyer in the US. And Asiwaju encouraged me also to move to New York and study for the bar exam. I took the New York bar exam, I passed it, and I got what looked like a dream job with the University of Harvard Law School, Immigration and Refugee Clinic in Boston, in the state of Massachusetts. And that was where I was doing. And our program at Harvard Immigration Clinic was to provide legal services, for members of the migrant community and low-income people who could not afford to hire private attorneys. And then of course, Asiwaju gave me all the support to be able to do this. When Asiwaju again decided in 1998, following the death of General Abacha and the announcement of a new political transition program by General Abdulsalam Abubakar, who then was the new head of state to return Nigeria to civilian to democratic rule, let me put it that way. Asiwaju decided he was coming back home to contest election. And I know he didn't just take this decision. They called a meeting of all of us in Washington, D.C. to decide what should be our approach, our attitude to the new administration. Of course, it was a new administration, so to say, but it was still a military regime. And we were not excited about that. Many of us would feel that, it was not yet Uhuru. We should keep organizing, until we had a democratic transition. And Asiwaju said, wait a minute, yes, you continue to organize, you continue to struggle. But now the new military regime is saying they are ready. We have to be on ground to participate. Again, to cut the story short, Asiwaju decided to come back home to contest election. His initial intention was to contest election to go back to the Senate. But many of the people at home in Lagos said, no, Asiwaju, you are not contesting election to go back to the Senate. You are contesting election to be governor of Lagos State, because we need you in the executive arm of government. And that was how the whole thing started. Asiwaju contested the election, he won, and by the grace of God was sworn in as governor of Lagos State. Asiwaju appreciated loyalty, appreciated friendship, appreciated, mentoring and mentorship, and he wasn't going to give up on any of the promises he made, to give me a platform to be able to also serve the government and people of Lagos State. And for the 7.5 years, that was left in his 2 terms, I was extremely relevant. I started as special advisor on political and intergovernmental relations during his first term, and his second term, he appointed me as the Honorable Commissioner for Youth, Sports and Social Development. And then, under Governor Fashola, who then had served as Chief of Staff, and upon Asiwaju's exit, he had assumed office as the new governor. I was also appointed as the Honorable Commissioner for Information and Strategy. So altogether, I served for 11 and a half years in the cabinet of Lagos State, without having come from Lagos State. So what was important to Asiwaju was not the geography of where I came from. It was not my religion. It was not, we were not of the same religious faith. He's a Muslim while I'm a Christian, but that was not a barrier. And that was his situation and the story with many of the people that we served together in the cabinet, where I was privileged to serve as commissioner under Asiwaju Tinubu. Like I said, I'm from Ekiti. We had another person from Ekiti, my big brother, Mr. Dele Alake, who then was the Honorable Commissioner for Information and Strategy under Asiwaju's watch. We had our respected Professor Yemi Osinbajo, who was the Honorable Commissioner for Justice and Attorney General, and today, by God's grace, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. A ministry as sensitive as the Ministry of Works, and rural development, infrastructural development was headed by another person who is from outside of Lagos, Honorable Rauf Aregbesola. Engineer Aregbesola is from Osun, and he later became governor, in Osun State, and today is serving as Honorable Minister of Interior of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And then we'll have Mr. Bayo Adewusi from Oyo State. We have Chief Femi Lanleng, who is a popular chief in Ibadan. Also from Oyo State. We have, Mr. Ben Akabueze as the commissioner in charge of budget and economic planning for Lagos State. We had Mr. Lai Muhammad in that cabinet. He started as chief of staff, and today he's the Honorable Minister of Information, National Orientation for the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He's not from Lagos, he's from Kwara State. So that was our story. Asiwaju himself is a case study, in leadership and in mobilization of human resources and intellect. Asiwaju is a case study in human capital development. And today, at a time like this, in a country like ours, where ideas, are meant to rule the world, and a country that's almost at a standstill because so much has happened and so much is still happening. We have had an administration in the last 7.5 years, going to 8 years, that came to right a lot of wrongs, but the enormity of what had gone wrong, had been so deep that it would take more than 8 years, to actually bring the country back, on its knees. It's a time that we need somebody who will have the personality, the grace, the scientific understanding of what is wrong, the scientific understanding of what is to be done, and as much as possible, who will also have the courage to take decisions, and be able to stand by his decisions, and will be able to also descend from an Olympian height, where power and leadership put you a lot of time, to the level, where he can really work with the people, work with different segments of the society, different sectors of the society, the youth, the women, the students, the professional groups, and as much as possible, the gatekeepers of the country, and the international community. It's important that we get someone who has the maturity, who understands the language of leadership. For me, if you look around you today, beyond rhetoric, the person that keeps coming back to you, at least among all those who are jostling, to be president of Nigeria today, is His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Tinubu. Sometimes I wonder when the Emir of Borgo, Senator Adetoro of blessed memory, gave Asiwaju the title of Jagaban of Borgo. The title was funny to us. We asked them what is the meaning. I remember when we went for the installation, of Asiwaju as Jagaban Bogu. We kept asking everybody, what is the meaning of Jagaban? How did they come to that conclusion? Another but Senator Detoro was very clear as an emir, even in his address and the address by the leaders of the community. They saw in Asiwaju, a fighter. They saw in Asiwaju a warrior, on the side of the people, on the side of progress, on the side of development and progress. And today, everything is manifesting. Asiwaju is the architect of the new Lagos. And he said this, some people don't want to hear that, but nobody is saying without Asiwaju, there will not be Lagos. Lagos there was before Asiwaju was even born. And when Asiwaju is grown up, when he's old and gone to meet with his creator, Lagos will still be there. But what is important is that, God has used him to create such an impact that no one can deny. God has used him to change the face of Lagos. It's a new face of Lagos. And we'll be playing the ostrich if you pretend not to know how the new Lagos came about and how God used Asiwaju. And today, it's no longer just about Lagos, it's now about the Federal Republic of Nigeria, a part of which, is Lagos. The nation is waiting, for intervention, and I have no doubt that by the grace of God, Asiwaju will be a solution yet again, in Nigeria, the same way it had been in Lagos. And Asiwaju will also have a bigger opportunity to identify more talents across the country and deploy them, on the development of our country. We look forward to that. So I look forward to 2023, with a lot of excitement, because I know that definitely the new Nigeria that we have all been looking for and that we have been working towards, and I know the current administration has worked so hard, to attain. Asiwaju will be here to consolidate, on the efforts of the current administration by making sure that flowing from what has been done in the last 8 years of the President Buhari administration, that Asiwaju is able to hit the ground running. Having worked closely with him is based on me being a part of his school of politics, and I know he's a very passionate person with a lot of empathy for our nation, for the less privileged, and he also has continued to roll with the privileged population of Nigerians, because he has a way of trying to reach out to everybody, and he believes that his own form of leadership should touch the life of everybody, either young or old, either rich or poor, either man or woman, either Muslim or Christian, or even those who don't have any religious faith that they prefer. So these are, issues that will need to be canvassed, at the fullness of time. And I also know that Asiwaju has empathy, for people. And if I also say that from a personal experience, I will tell you of how Asiwaju still continue to help me to pay tuition fees for my children in the United States, even when I served as commissioner, in his administration. When everybody would have assumed that I had money, but because he knew my capacity and he knew I needed help, he would always be there. So I have a relationship with him, and I'm hoping and trusting God that I'll be able to leverage on that relationship, even as a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, to make lives easier, for the people of my senatorial district, for the people of my state, and for Nigerians at large. And I'm sure many of us have similar stories and similar leverages, that they can use to better the lots of their own people. But most importantly, whether you have access to him or not, he has a political philosophy that cuts across, that will lead to the emancipation of the downtrodden in this country, and that will lead to economic prosperity which in turn would affect everyone in Nigeria. And I'm just looking forward to an Asiwaju presidency, because I know with that, our story cannot be the same.
ẹ̀yin ènìyàn rere èkìtì central senatorial district bẹ̀ẹ̀ láti àdó èkìtì ìrẹ́pọ̀dún ìfẹ́lódùn ìjẹ̀rò ẹ̀fọ̀n àti èkìtì west lójúnà àti láǹfààní ní sísúnmọ́ra ẹni pẹ́kípẹ́kí sẹ́nẹ́tọ̀ michael Opeyemi Bamidele mob kíkálukú lè rọ́nà láti bá sẹ́nẹ́tọ̀ sọ̀rọ̀ àwọn èèyàn wa tó jẹ́ okun kòótọ́ àti aṣojú tí yóò jẹ́ kérò gba yín ọ̀hún ohun tẹ́ ẹ fẹ́ káàkiri constituency yín ó dọ́dọ̀ sẹ́nẹ́tọ̀ lásìkò tẹ́ ẹ fẹ́ kó lè di ṣíṣe lẹ́yẹ ọ̀sọ́kà ẹ lè kàn sí honourable Tóyè Àgbájé níjẹ̀rò local government lórí nọ́mbà yìí 08031869636 Èkìtì West Máyọ̀wá Òjó 07038205484 Tèmítáyọ̀ Adétọ́nà Ìrẹ́pọ̀dún Ìfẹ́lódùn 08132620227 Àdó local government Honourable Gbẹ̀ngà Bánjí 08135497774 ìrọ̀rùn eku ni ìrọ̀rùn ẹyẹ ní Yorùbá ń wí ẹ̀yin alátìlẹ́yìn wa ló jẹ́ ká máa dùn ìrọ̀rùn yín la lọ ṣojú ó ti di dandan kó tẹ̀yìn lọ́wọ́ ìjẹ́ sẹ́nitọ̀ Michael Opeyemi Bamidele MOB lónìí èrò sinidé gbọ̀ngàn dẹ̀yìn ẹni sinidé kiri ńlomi yẹni.
Jagaban, everybody vote for Jagaban. Jagaban, everybody vote for Jagaban. He's the man we want. Everybody vote for Jagaban. Jagaban. Everybody vote for Jagaban.